So, despite this movie being around the middle in his rankings, he still likes it. He finds Jason's Duway in this movie iconic. He digs the creepy potato sack hillbilly look, and it kills bloody in a fantastic way. Jenny Field is among his favorite female leads for her kindness and empathy towards Jason's backstory, for her genius in using his mother's sweater and voice to take him down, which is pretty much how most of the fandom feels about her anyway. She's a mother. What prevents this movie from being higher in his eyes is that outside these elements, he thinks the plot and characters are pretty much a repeat of Part 1's plot and characters, just with a different killer. As for me, this movie often switches between fourth and third place with Part 1 depending on my mood. To me, it's a solid follow up to Part 1, has better kills, a more interesting female lead, and a quick pace that keeps me actively engaged in the plot. When he was a kid, he got a real kick out of 3D in this movie and definitely owns a Blu-ray copy that comes with 3D glasses. From a technical standpoint, he thinks it's an important aspect of Part 3 that makes it stand out. From a storytelling perspective, he thinks Chris is one of the most interesting final girls of how her traumatizing backstory Jason adds to the lore. He finds the other unlucky cast members to be sympathetic and entertaining in their own special ways, with a lot of their death scenes being grisly fun. And of course, since this is the movie where our favorite killer gets his hockey mask, Eli finds the very scene that Jason gets it to be iconic. How do I feel about it? It's personally my least favorite of the first four movies because if you're watching without the 3D glasses, the scenes are corny and not visually appealing. I think the subplot with the biker gang is stupid. Shelley, unpopular opinion, is annoying as hell. Having a member of Jason's body count be randomly pregnant and nothing being seriously done with that was pointless and tasteless. The random disco music was in the movie was corny as fuck, even for this series. Chris' relationship with her boyfriend Rick is like really weird to watch because he looks like 30 years older than her at minimum, and Jason's overall characterization in his entry is off. Like being implied to have sexually assaulted Chris in her past and creepily smiling at her in the climax. Yeah, that's odd behavior, even for him. But this movie is way too important for the series for me to genuinely dislike it. For the same reasons Eli enjoys it, I enjoy it. Plus the scene of him murdering Vera with a harpoon gun, followed by a shot of him casually lounging around before menacing looking up towards Higgins Haven is one of my favorite shots in the entire franchise. Real horror right there. This might be controversial to a lot of fans because of the infamous way the gore in this movie was heavily censored in the final cut, but still, Eli loves this movie. Tina is overall his favorite final girl in the series for her awesome telekinetic powers. Is she a Carrie ripoff? Yes, but she's a perfect one for this series in his opinion. He relates heavily to her backstory of losing a loved one and living with the guilt of playing a part in it, and finds her arc of healing from it to stop Jason empowering. Most of the other characters in his entry are very unlikable, but he gives them a pass because, hey, at least they die epically. He cheers on Melissa's death scene every rewatch. Jason's look in his movie, Mask and Unmasked, is also his favorite, and he finds Kane Hodder's performance to be menacing. I personally headcanon that this was his first Friday movie. I personally rank this movie lower because outside Tina's character, who makes the movie interesting, is a very cheap remake of Part 4 of a really hateable cast. I do have a soft spot for the New Blood because it's the first Friday movie that got me into the series, though. Freddy vs. Jason was the first movie in the series that I watched when I was a little kid, and Jason X was the second, but watching Part 7 as a teenager helped me get over my fear of watching the movies. The sleeping bag kill, as neuter as it was, is still chef's kiss. Part 1, he ranks it so high because it's obviously a classic. Yeah, it's cheesy, it's a blatant attempt to cash in on Halloween's success, and the lack of Jason is jarring, but it's still a creepy, haunting summer camp tale with great atmosphere and tension. From a technical standpoint, the death scenes occurring during a stormy night are what sells this movie as real horror and allows for some amazing shots in his opinion. He feels much sympathy for Pamela's plight, as monstrous as she is, and sees the ending of Kid Jason dragging Alice down into the water during her nightmare, her waking up in a hospital and realizing that he's still out there, to be genuinely one of the scariest of all time. My opinion, as I already said this earlier, is that this movie in part two switches places in my ranking depending on my mood, but I still highly adore it regardless. It's cheesy as hell, and Final Girl owls along for fellow camp counselors are boring as shit to watch, but it's still real horror. It's still iconic, and it still means a lot to me. The tragedy of Steve Christie having a beautiful dream to reopen Camp Crystal Lake that becomes a nightmare for years to come is quite somber to think over. This one isn't so controversial, and in fact, the reasons why Eli has his movie so highly rated are the same reasons why majority of fandom has it highly rated. It's the perfect quintessential Friday the 13th movie. There's a long body count, a creepy atmosphere, is a very pissed off and vicious Jason Voorhees is brutally murdering characters left and right. Tom Savini's makeup effects in this movie are impressive and makes you squeamish in a perfect way. It kicks off the Tommy Jarvis era. The Doom characters in the movie are entertaining, and I know it's perverted ass enjoy the ample amounts of nudity in this movie. It's my favorite Friday movie. It's one of my overall comfort movies, period. There's nothing I dislike about this entry other than Rob's flop ass and Sarah being killed off because I really liked her a lot. Poor girl. If the series truly ended at part 4 like it was supposed to, it would have served its purpose of ending Jason's rampage with a bang. It's one of the best climaxes of any movie series, period. Finally, for Eli's number one favorite Friday movie is part 6, Jason Lives. While he doesn't dislike A New Beginning for attempting to do something different with the series, he cheers on Jason's glorious comeback in his following movie along with his epic soundtrack. He loves how Tommy's character arc comes full circle in this movie, and Tommy getting the will to take down the source of his trauma for good, while wanting to protect innocent people, especially the children in this movie, from ending up like him. He enjoyed the conflict Tommy has with Sheriff Garris and his romance with Garris's daughter Megan that complicates everything. He appreciates the humorous but loving ways the movie pokes fun at the series because it reminds him of what Wes Craven would eventually do with Scream 10 years later. The movie establishing that zombie Jason, unlike his human form, isn't really interested in killing young children, adds some interesting depth to Jason's character post-resurrection in his eyes. This is my second favorite Friday movie for every reason Eli has it as his first. There's no nudity in Jason Lives for you horny hoes, but the movie proves that it doesn't need it to be excellent. Part 4 is only above it slightly because I consider 4 my special number. Jason Lives is the only flawless zombie Jason movie to me, and I just love everything about it. Jason's comeback is more iconic than most of your favorite singers, musicians, or rappers. Oop. So that's it. This is how I think Eli Goldsworthy will rank the Friday movies. Agree? Leave a nice comment below and subscribe to his channel. And a little Miss Sticks enjoy his channel. Have a good night, everyone.